society that believes that there are rules and techniques and tricks and ways of making things happen. But somehow in the area of love, we insist stubbornly on intuition. And it sounds so odd if you compare it with other things. I mean, imagine if I said to you, I'm going to fly a 777 down to Melbourne tomorrow and I'm going to land it by intuition. Or I'm going to perform a piece of brain surgery by intuition. You'd be like, what? That's crazy. Nevertheless, in the area of love, we're ready to embark on 50-year marriages by intuition, just hoping it's all going to go well. So what are some of these skills that we might need to develop? Well, let me give you just a few, and I throw these out, and there of course be so many more. But I think one of the things that can help, and it sounds rather odd, but one of the things that can really help is to learn to see your partner as a small child, probably between the ages of 2 to 3.5. Basically, to imagine that your partner is of roughly that age. Now, the reason I say this is that all of us nowadays are really pretty good around 2 to 3.5-year-olds. So let's imagine you've got one of those things at home and you're cooking a dinner, and I don't know, you've made some schnitzel, potatoes, broccoli, and you give the kid the dinner. And it just goes, nah, and throws the whole dinner on the floor, nah, like this. And now you don't hit the child. You don't go, I've had such a hard day at work, and now this? Are you trying to bring me down? Are you trying to crush my character? You go, oh no, maybe you've got a sore tooth, or you must be quite tired, or maybe it's that jealousy with your sibling, it is getting to you, it's hard to share your toys. We'll come up with very gentle explanations of why a piece of behavior has appeared on the horizon that seems pretty mean. We don't necessarily believe that people of that age are mean. We simply feel that they're in some ways hurting, anxious, damaged in some way, and we want to help them. We're generous. Our adult love affairs do not find us in that kind of mood. I mean, we're constantly going, you try to bring me down, you're trying to humiliate me, you haven't given me the attention I need. We very much take everything extremely personally. Part of the problem is that we don't look like children. I mean, this is really unhelpful. Like, one of the great things about children is that they look like children. So you kind of just know that they are a child. But if you look at me, someone like that, you think, oh, this guy's an adult. He sort of looks like an adult. So it's quite counterintuitive to go, like, many parts of this character are about 2.5 years old. You can't really believe it. But the thing is that you sort of have to believe it. I mean, the problem with psychological wounds and distortions is that you can't see them. I mean, it's literally as sort of simple as that. You can't see them. If I've got a broken arm, right? Everyone can see that I've got a broken arm. And you start to go, okay, the guy's like messed up his speech because he's got a bit of a broken arm. He must be in pain. And when he's going to walk through the door, we'll hold the door open. We'll make some special accommodation because we know he's not all that well in some way. It's just obvious he's got a problem. The thing is that all of us are kind of like that broken inside in various key ways, but there's no easy way of signaling it, right? We can't signal that we've got these wounds and breakages, etc. And so our partners don't necessarily give us the accommodation that they would. And that's why it's so important to realize that, of course, wandering through the world, everybody is very severely broken and in need of a lot of forgiveness, and generally, on the whole, not mean, just frightened. Most people are very, very scared, and the most appalling pieces of behavior normally have fear at the heart of them rather than evil. The other thing that's quite key, I think, and is a real achievement of love, is to learn to see your partner. Most of us, after a while, start to see our partners as idiots. They just are a bit of an idiot. And just like, oh God, an idiot thing has happened again with our partner. Now, this is why part of the reason why comedy and humor is so important in a relationship. You have to find a way to access the comedic part of all of you. Now, the interesting thing about comedy is that in comedy, many comic heroes are total idiots. I mean, if you think of someone like David Brent or Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm, these guys are just total idiots. But when we're watching the shows, we kind of do this amazing thing, which is we both know they're idiots, but we kind of like them. We do this amazing metamorphosis. We start to see them as lovable idiots, kind of lovable idiots. And that is such a piece of ethical imagination. To turn someone from an idiot to a lovable idiot in your imagination is a major piece of maturity. And if we're able to achieve that, even sometimes in love, we will have learned very much how to temper our more punitive interpretations of who it is that we've got together with. The other thing that we need, of course, is to really reckon with our habit of getting into crushes. It was very charming at a certain point how easily we've developed crushes on people. And, for a time it was thrilling and, it really kept us going through certain years. But, we really have to get over the crush thing. Because the thing is, you don't need to know someone at all well to know, even though they look completely charming, and it was lovely to see them in the airline queue or at the supermarket briefly, etc. And that's why you got a little tetchy when you got home, just because they were sort of lingered in your imagination, that there was kind of an angel walking around the aisles of the supermarket or at the airport, and now you've had to go home, sadly, but there was this angel. We've got to get over it. And the reason we can get over it is by an absolute piece of scientific certainty, which is that there are no angels, they're only human beings, and every human being wandering the earth is very, very problematic from close up. You don't know how this person is disturbed and would drive you mad, but you have to know and take on board that they would. They just would. If you knew them better, despite their charms, and honestly, their ankles look lovely, and their little bit of conversation that you had at the conference was just very promising. But the point is, deep down, they will cause you immense trouble because not they're evil, they're human, and everybody does this. So, in a way, we're so obsessed nowadays, partly because of technology, with the idea of finding the perfect person, the right person. We're all the time swiping left and right in the search for that right person. The truth is there is no such character. Everybody is going to be wrong in substantial areas. There is no such thing. Compatibility, ultimately, is an achievement of love. It isn't and can't and shouldn't be its precondition. And therefore, the notion that we can only really get together with somebody when we have found somebody who matches us entirely. The person who is right isn't the person who agrees and condones every aspect of our character. It's somebody who negotiates the differences between two people in a particular way, with a particular generosity and, dare I say it, sometimes humor. This is the so-called right person, but they're not that they are in some ways, magical ways, perfect. Look, the other thing, let's mention it just very quickly, around sex. We live in an age of very high expectations around sex. Romanticism has prepared us for very high things. The whole subject is a little bit of a veil of tears, to be honest. There are really two things that we want in this area, and they run in completely opposite directions. All of us want safety. We want to be really safe and loyal with somebody, and loyalty brings with it safety. So we really want safety. And the other thing we really, really want is excitement. And the two just point in completely different directions. But periodically, and it happens on a kind of 20-year basis, people come along and go, I found a solution to this kind of safety, excitement thing. And you go, what is it? So in the 60s, people were telling us, it's called free love. So basically the deal is that you get a bit of both. You get safety in one corner, and you get excitement too, and it's really great. And nowadays we're deep in the age of polyamory. So a lot of people go, there's this thing I've heard, it's called polyamory, and it's great, it gives you everything. And jealousy is just this thing, it's dreamt up by capitalism, and you just head out there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it just is not true. These two things are deeply incompatible. I'm not going to go into too much why. We can discuss that later if you like. But essentially, you really have to make a choice between varieties of suffering. What kind of suffering do you want to go for? Do you want to go for, and also what kind of upside is more important to you? Do you want to go for the safety loyalty thing, which is terrific? You get, fantastic kind of coziness, really sweet, but you will be missing out. And sometimes in the suburbs, on a Saturday night, you'll be like, oh wow, what's going on in the bars and the kind of swinging places of the city, and it's not for you. So you've made your choice. And then of course, there's the other choice, which is excitement, which is terribly thrilling, and new people all the time, and the first time you undress them, and it's all thrilling. But of course, it's utter chaos. Your life's full of recriminations, full of jealousy, full of confusion. The children are in a mess. But, there's the excitement. So really the choice before us is, what variety of suffering do you want to go for? Do you want to go for the chaos bit or the kind of boredom and stultification bit? Which one? It's like a choice. And, it's funny. It's good you're laughing, because I recently went... I recently went to the United States and did a book tour, and it didn't happen so much on the East Coast, which is more closer to a kind of European sensibility. But by the time I got to California, by the time I was talking about this, there was literally a stunned silence in the room. I'm like, what? Well, you're saying this, you can't make things perfect? What? We live in LA. What? But of course, I think, one of the great contributions, Britain is not responsible for very much that's totally perfect, but one of its greatest exports, one of the greatest British exports is melancholy. And you know, melancholy is a really kind of useful emotion sometimes, because it's not fury, it's not rage. It's like, yeah, like, you know, life's imperfect, but I'm dealing with it. I'm coping with it. I've got Morrissey, I've got Bach. I'm handling it. It's under control. And I think this is an area, this is an area where we may want to have recourse to that peculiar British gift to humanity. Look, you know, am I saying that we should always stick with people? Are we in danger of saying that in that case anyone is worth sticking with? I don't want to say that. In many ways, you know, marriage is a pretty nasty thing to do to somebody that you claim to love. It's putting them through some pretty difficult stresses. But you know, and there are undoubtedly sometimes people that you should leave, some relationships which should be broken up. How can you tell? How do you know whether you should leave somebody? And you know, I think there's almost kind of simple rule of thumb. I think, you know, if you can look at your life, honestly survey its good and bad sides, and if you could honestly pinpoint all the things that are making you profoundly unhappy to your partner, if you look around and you think, okay, yeah, all the things that are really bringing me down, it's them. It really is them. It's them. Leave. If you really can feel that, just leave. Right? Then you should leave. But if you honestly take an audit of your sources of unhappiness and the many causes for which they're reverberating through your soul, and you look at your partner and you go, I'm not sure if I can fully blame them for everything, then stay. Because what you may have encountered is some of the unhappiness of existence in the company of another person rather than because of another person. It's so easy to merge the two. I mean, Great Britain has done exactly this with its marriage to the European Union. It very much believed that all of its unhappiness could be pinpointed to this thing. By getting rid of it, it would be happy. And now it's discovering a lesson that many people in relationships have also discovered painfully when it's too late. Should we even bother with marriage? My novel is about marriage, in a way. It's very much a novel focusing on long-term relationships with a marriage. Is there any point to it anymore? You know, many articles, normally about one a week in a major broadsheet newspaper, it's always about, is marriage still in? Is it still relevant? And of course, it doesn't really make sense from all sorts of points of view. Like if you take a sober look at marriage, it's completely insane. It's like, hang on, I'm going to give half of all my belongings, and you know, still nowadays people don't invest heavily in lawyers to kind of make things easy. We kind of jump headlong into marriage, and we still do it despite all the reasons why we might not. So why do we do this? And is it just a kind of insanity? Well, I don't think so. I think that the very fact that we make ourselves go through marriage and we invite all our friends and we have a huge wedding. So it would be so embarrassing if we had to call them all up and go, you know what? You know that TV you bought me? Really sorry. It's only been 3 months, but I'm quitting, right? Why do we publicly betroth ourselves to another person? Because I think a mature part of us knows that we benefit from the cage of marriage. It is a cage, but we put ourselves in it, we lock ourselves, and we throw away the key ourselves. Not because we're crazy, but because we realize that there are sides of our character that really can only develop in an environment in which neither of us can quit the room immediately. That actually the ability to run away, so tempting though it is not always of benefit to the things that we've got to work through. So we willingly encage ourselves because we realize that there is some kind of piece of maturity, some piece of growing up that is going to happen when we are locked together in a situation which we can't immediately accept at the huge cost and huge embarrassment. Embarrassment's very important. We're willingly entering into a situation which it would be deeply embarrassing to leave. We're not simply crazy. We're aware of the debt that maturity owes to being slightly locked into a situation. So look, I do believe that it is possible to have long-term relationships. I just think we need to run through a kind of checklist. When are we ready for love? When are we ready to really embark on this long-term business of love? I think you're ready to really go for it in love when you finally and conclusively accept that you really are crazy and you have really quite a good handle on your craziness. And not least, you have a really good handle on your partner's craziness, and you have an absolute awareness that anyone you meet, even the most charming person on a train, is going to be very imperfect, because that's human nature. When you're ready to do the laundry, when you're ready to discuss towels ad infinitum, when you're ready not merely to insist that others will guess what's in your heart, but you may even have to use words to spell it out very, very patiently over long periods, and you're ready to believe that all of this, with a dose of humor, belongs to a sincere relationship, then, ladies and gentlemen, I think you are ready for love, and I would commend you to move